Welcome, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Tuesday, December 17th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first two cards in our 5-card spread? We've got 3 cards coming out. This keeps happening. This has been happening ever since that full moon in Gemini. We're doing a lot of this work right now. We just keep getting a lot of doubled up cards. So the cards that we're pulling today to begin our reading is the Justice card in its reversal with the Hanged Man in its reversal. Okay, so this is a perfect articulation in what we are experiencing right now with this energetic frequency. So if it feels uncomfortable, it's because we're going through the Gemini full moon hangover. And a lot of that is, if you start feeling comfortable, don't get too comfortable, right? Because and I need to describe this, like that sense. And this is the difference between the Gemini energy and the Libra energy, right? Because the Libra energy, both of these energies work very much in the conversation of polarities, right? The Libra energy often works more in that state of balance. Now, what's interesting or what's intriguing about the Gemini energy is it's not so much about balance, right? It's about finding comfort in discomfort, right? And I know that sounds paradoxical, but this is often why a lot of the Gemini journeys have a lot to do with navigating paradox, right? Because when you're working through that modality of navigating strong energetic forces, there's a lot of work that we see that requires that sense of not being able to just be one particular facet, right? It's not something that you can just put like a blanket statement on. You can't just and this is interesting too, because we often see, right? This is often why like Libras and Geminis are very similar but very different, because Libra energy often just kind of wants to have like a firm rule and be like, I've got a rule, but Geminis recognize that when you navigate in that space of a particular position, that you limit yourself, that there's always something conditional that is going to move you out of that sense of being able to look at something with a sense of like, it's almost like that sense of being like the singular perspective is one that is myopic. So this is why we see that for a lot of the Gemini energy, the ability to see something from different perspectives often creates a lot of that complexity, right? Because there's a lot of that complexity that is being navigated right now. And with the combination of the Sagittarius energy, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's wacky. It feels energetically wacky because we've literally, it's like mad scientist kind of energy, if you will. Now, this is having a different impact on across all the frequencies, but I do want to pull the second card because that was actually the first card, because those are the two that came out. Our second card today is, I'm not surprised to see it. We've got our 9 of Cups. So this is like learning to get comfortable with discomfort, right? Like navigating that to a certain extent. This, and I need to stress the beauty of, there is beauty to be found in this, right? But it's difficult. Why is it difficult? Because it's coming through that moment of nuance and working through a lot of that nuance. Now, for masculine and feminine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Deep within, like in separation, this is literally more of the continuation of the journey that we've been reading for. This is further confirmation of a lot of energy right now in separation that is working on healing damaged trust. And the difficulty, we've been talking about this, the difference between hesitation and trepidation. It stinks, right? And a lot of the energy that's in that space of healing is identifying that often the energy that does not care looks very similar to the energy that is very prudent and moves with a lot of like moves with a lot of slowness, right? So we see even now that navigating that, there's a lot of that work that we're recognizing as it relates to healing. And this is the energy that is working on navigating those experiences from the past. But this is how we heal trust, right? And we've been taught, this message has just been coming over through again and again and again right now, that often when we have to heal the bonds of trust, it feels like we're walking into the same, like it feels like we're walking in the wrong direction, right? Because the one thing we've been seeing is a lot of this energy saying trust, like trust, you mean the thing that got me into this mess in the first place? And like, you know, the universal response is like, yeah, that. Because that gift, right? Working through that, the fact that it's never wrong to trust, but utilizing discernment as it relates to who you build that with, that is that modality or that moment of feeling the sense of sacredness. And so we see even now, this is what is forging and healing a lot of these energetic connections. And it's slow, right? And I can see that energy like bouncing back and forth, you know, that Sagittarian urge to run, right? Like that Sagittarian urge is like, you know, like that jumpstart energy that we often see with the Sagittarian cycles, with the combination of the Gemini, right? The Sagittarius energy says, like go, and the Sagittarius, the Gemini energy says stop, right? So it's a lot of this stop and go, right? And that ability of stopping and going is about working through nuance. And so I see even now, this is the energy that is building slowly with one another. And in the process of building forth with consistency, they're healing from any past wherein the breakage was found within inconsistency, right? Because that is truly what trust is. It is not necessarily an openness. It is the openness combined with consistency. Now, for masculine and feminine, and I see them, I can literally, this is why I see even now, these are energies that are like opening wounds and then closing them. Because this is the energy that is articulating upon the past that created the point of hesitancy, and then building into that space of saying, like, you know, restoring in the process, right? Not coming into that space of reacting to the past, but articulating through it. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into a lot like into divine union. This is I see a lot of energy right now coming into divine union that's basically just arrived there. They've like made peace with it. You know, like it's bittersweet. I can hear the energy saying it's bittersweet, but I've made peace with it, because this is more of that further, there's more of that further sense of space, that this is the energy that says, again, they're not moving deeper into commitment for effect, like what they see outside of the self, but for affect, how it makes them feel internally. So even more of this here, I see a lot of that energy that's building into that sense of stability. Like this is saying to me that this time period for a lot of the energy coming into divine union, it's like almost like reaching like ground level, like, you know, it's like it's leveling off. It's like getting over some of that turbulence. It's like almost not the fact that the turbulence isn't still there, it's just it's like beneath that, like, you know, like it's like they're looking upon it, like they it's like that. It's, and I need to stress this isn't disassociation. This is the reflection point in the observation of perceiving something that you feel distance from, right? That's not disassociation. Though again, disassociation can feel very similar to like integration. This is the energy that's integrated something. And so we see even how, like, this is the energy that just comes into that point of accepting it because they're not trying to change it, right? While for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within divine union, I see a lot of this energy like finding that sense of peace from within. And a lot of that finding that sense of peace from within is, it's remembering that you're never going to be perfect. you know, like that journey, that the journey of perfection is one that one is constantly in a state of self-correction, right? And so we see even now, like that is that tension that we identify that feels, that this is the energy deep within divine union that says to one another that your own sense of frustration is a blessing, because this is the energy that says if you feel frustrated, it's because you hold yourself to a higher standard. And if you hold yourself to a higher standard, it's because you're trying to reach and achieve towards your higher self, right? So it's like the energy that says it stinks, but it's also like the nature. It's like the nature of not stinking. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot of that work in terms of recognizing and giving oneself peace, not to be perfect. Like that sense that says like trying is not the right word for something, because trying is the qualitative aspect that you're putting on something that you're actively doing, right? Center card for today's spread, it actually is the bottom of the deck because it was left on the table as I just turned it, is we have here our Queen of Wands in its reversal. Now, this is really important because this is having a different impact on masculine and feminine energy right now. For both of these energies, I'm seeing it's navigating frustration. It also, and I want to stress this, there's something that keeps coming through ever since this Gemini full moon, that says if energy feels like I'm doing like this is how, because this is how I need to stress this too, because this is a lot of that journey that we saw in relationality to masculine and feminine, healing something fundamental within the self, right? And so this has a lot to do with the feminine, like working through some of that like booing, right? Because this is the feminine that doesn't move in that modality of trying to get booed. But you did see how so much of that work right now is the feminine not moving in that directionality of understanding that when you're on a pathwork of purpose, it's going to feel a lot like you're disappointing everyone in the process, right? Because this is the energy that says to the self, this is the feminine that says that act of disappointing others is qualitative of the feminine working not in the space of being what others anticipate them to be, but being their highest version of self. So this is like, this is a lot of the feminine energy that's like saying like, if others feel that I'm doing something wrong, that's probably a sign that I'm doing something right, because that's the feminine that says I'm not qualitatively identifying what that sense of rightness is in relationality to what others expect from me. I'm allowing that internal guidance system, that higher self compass, to light the way, right? And this isn't the end. I need to stress this, okay? This is not the energy of a feminine that is being intentionally provocative, because I need to point this out. Even when being intentionally provocative, right? There's some people and feminine, feminine energy knows this. There's energy that like tries to be provocative because they feel like it's appealing. This is not that. You understand? This is the feminine that is working deeply on that space of not feeling that need to be seen via the context of others because they recognize and identify it within the self, right? While for masculine energy, and that's beautiful, right? Because that is the feminine energy, like not intentionally trying to energetically disappoint others, but making peace with the perception of others towards them. While for feminine, and I told you, this is some complicated stuff that we're dealing with right now. It's this Gemini, I'm telling you, it's a Gemini full moon with the Sagittarian energy. With masculine, this is like walking tightrope kind of energy, right? And a lot of that, I want to say the reason I'm seeing that this feels more like the masculine trying to walk a tightrope is because this has a lot to do with the masculine navigating their own emotions And I told you, one of the things that we saw that was happening right now for a lot of the masculine energy is recognizing and identifying the different from the emotions that come from the egoic self, right? The demanding forces, the emotionality that says, I want what I want, when I want it right now, and it has to be the way that I want it, versus those the higher emotions, the emotions of the higher self that rise up because they hold something energetically sacred. And when we hold something energetically sacred, what we find within ourselves, that those are the emotions that are the truer emotions. Those are the emotions that rise up from a state of like the beautification of what is energetically sacred, that is articulated by one's emotionality. So that's why I see even now, like, this is like the masculine, like feeling like they're walking that energetic tightrope because they're navigating their own emotions in the process. Both of these energies facilitating forward in that way, doing the same exact work on healing the self, but it looks very counter oppositional depending on how you're experiencing it. While for masculine and feminine energy right now coming into divine union, this is more of the same there, because I see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy coming into divine union, I can see the energy being like, I sure did not expect it to feel like this. I did not expect to feel like I have to protect. I see the energy. Like I see the energy just facilitating forward in a way that it's a lot of that same path work, which is again allowing the egoic self to step back as it relates to finding the sacred self. I just see even now there's a lot of energy right now coming into divine union that is finding, like, masculine energy, again, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. It's just like finding themselves in the process, being like, oh, there you are. Like, why is that? Why do we see that? Because this is the energy that says like I've got something I'm protecting. Like, this is masculine. Like I told you, when you create something that's like, this is the energy that's like viewing partnership in a different way, because this is the energy that's feeling the sacredness of an energetic bond. For feminine, I see that a lot of this, it feels more difficult because this is the feminine that is also working through that, but in such a way that like the feminine here coming into divine union, I can see there's emotional wounding that's happening. There's some feelings right now of, I want to say, like energetic bruising, because this is again more of that modality of the, like, I see a lot of energy that's coming into divine union going, I just didn't expect it to feel this way. You know, like but this isn't the energy that shies away from that. I just see that this is the energy that says that, you know, this is the energy that says we're not just walking into the perfect relationship, we're building it with two hands. Like, it's a perpetual motion machine, right? And so we see even now, like, a lot of that energy facilitating forward in that work to a certain extent. This is the energy that if others don't hold that sacredly, this is why they step back from them, because that's the energy that says you either hold it in the same regard or or you give some space to it. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation, I just see this is beautiful, because I just keep seeing that this is a lot of the energy saying I'm not perfect. And what are these dual forces saying to one another as they're building a connection? Like, no, I find your introspection important. That working into that space of perfection, I can see a lot of this energy feeling the weight of these new connections that are happening, and a lot of this energy saying, I don't feel ready. But often it's in the moment that we say to ourselves, I don't feel ready, that we are. Because it's in that moment that we recognize the value and the weight of the thing that we're creating, right? So this is a lot of that energy that's healing in the process of doing so. Second two cards in our 5-card spread before we start getting clarification on these cards right now. Between, if this looks familiar, and it should look familiar, this was the card that was on the bottom of the deck yesterday. So this is a full continuation of yesterday's reading. We've got here our Death card in its reversal in combination of our Page of Pentacles in its reversal. Now, this is, I got to tell you, even now, do you see this masculine and feminine right now? This, what you're feeling right now, if your confidence is shaky, I want you to say to yourself, Mars is in retrograde. Mars is in retrograde. It's a lot of second guessing. And that's the only thing I want to say, that I got to stress this, okay? Because you have to remember, we're still going through the Mercury retrograde shadow period. So we're not completely out of the retrograde. We've got the combined force of the Mars retrograde, which takes like a blow right to our confidence. And then to add to it, we've got the Gemini full moon, which again, in its positive space, can feel like navigating discomfort. But be careful and wary about over concentration on moving back and forth between decisions right now, because I need to point this out. When we go through, when we do that in a healthy way, right? When we do that in a way that feels like it is functional, it allows for a sense of energetic progress. What you want to avoid is getting caught in some modality where you're like agonizing over something and you're going back and forth and you're just experiencing a lot of internal conflict. Working through, remembering to not feel hard on yourself in doing that, but saying to oneself that if you're doing so, you do so because you care. You do so because you're trying to seek energetic nuance. Giving yourself that moment of compassion as you do so will help not create that moment of like, I want to say that freeze effect, like that moment when you're not sure what to do, but instead building into that sense of trusting oneself, right? Trusting that your intuition can guide you forward in what you know is best. So just be mindful today is what I'm seeing, because this is having an impact on both masculine and feminine. Masculine, it's going to be more, and again, this is going to be more in the practical space, because especially with this Page of Pentacles, this may be feeling like that frustration in like not being able to tangibly meet others' expectations. For feminine, this may have more to do in being understood, right? Right? And so I see even now, like there's a lot of that energy that is working forward in that way. And it feels productive, but it's because the Mars is in retrograde. It's like navigating, it's navigating through things with a sense of confidence and courage. And when we do that, it often requires us to find that courage within, right? Continuing, I want to say, continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Justice card in its reversal, in combination with our Hangman in its reversal, in combination with our Nine of Cups in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with the Empress in the reversal. This is like, if you're feeling icky today, it's because of the energy, right? Like there's a lot of this like I want to say, and like there's a lot of this like energetic discomfort today, like no, not this, you know what I mean? Like it's a lot of that like and it's feeling hard. And for feminine, I want to say at the moment, it's feeling more, I want to say this is navigating more, working through others' expectations of you versus like when you know yourself, right? And this is what we have to recognize. Like when we know ourselves, what others feel about us, we don't take personally, right? Particularly because we recognize that what they're articulating towards us is just a reflection of what they're effectively feeling within. And so I see even now that for a lot of the feminine energy, working through that to a certain extent, That's why I see that this is a feminine that says I allow for a modality of grace and compassion, but to a point, right? Like there's like a little bit of this energy that's like it's giving me like the walk softly but carry a big stick kind of thing, like the compassion that is given to another that says recognize that that compassion like is a gift. Like it's like recognize like where that springs forth from, right? Because that is the feminine that is like I want to say like navigates their own and navigates the energetic frustrations of another, not by being triggered, but by being observant. And so I want to say even now, if you're experiencing something in that way, don't just react to it. Ask, like work through asking the important question, because I see even now that something about that, like it requires that level or degree of curiosity. So if someone's like snappish, like again, especially and I need to say this to a certain extent. This may even be occurring across like feminine channels right now. This could even have to do with other associations right now. So like navigating that, not taking another person's emotionality personally, but almost asking the question as to why you may find them in that space, you know, like that is how we heal, right? We don't take another person's frustration or anger personally. We see the person that is suffering behind the pain, right? So that's a big message that's coming through right now for feminine. While for masculine energy today, I'm just seeing that like a lot, and not assuming, still not assuming anything, because remember, we do not assume anything during retrograde periods. For masculine energy right now, in like working through a lot of stuff I'm seeing here, this has more to do with not building upon others' perceptions of you, right? Very similar work to a certain degree, because I see even now that there's something about the masculine energy, and we're going to talk about this because I see this happening across the frequencies, that the masculine energy is facilitating forward and being compassionate towards those around them by recognizing that their sense of what they desire to do isn't prescriptive, right? Because often like the masculine energy, like when they feel like they know what's like when you feel like you know what's best, like I see even now, like there's a little bit of that introspection of saying that what one might believe is best, it's not necessarily like the full amplification of something. So I see even now that I see a lot of that like overprotectiveness that's occurring right now for masculine energy towards feminine. But it's giving me a little bit of this energy of the masculine that basically becomes energetically protective of feminine by almost saying to the feminine, after you. Why do we see that the masculine is in that modality? Because this isn't the masculine energy moving forward in this way. Like I want to say that this is interesting because it's coming through as masculine energy that is protective towards feminine, that doesn't say clear the way. It says after you, because it's leaving that okay, this is a really nuanced message. So when masculine and I'm very curious how masculine may be interpreting this right now, because it's very specific. When masculine energy says clear the way, it's calling attention towards the masculine. Right? When masculine says clear the way and is like shouting it from the rafters, even if they're doing it for the sake of the feminine, they're really drawing the attention towards the masculine energy. So the masculine recognizing this is why the masculine energy that's in the healing pathwork isn't saying clear the way. They're saying after you, because that sense of energetic courtesy, right? That stepping back to bring the force towards feminine. This is the masculine that says, I'm not being prescriptive. I'm not trying to carve that pathwork out for you, right? This is the masculine saying, I want to see where you lead it. I want to see where it goes, right? This is the masculine that's coming towards feminine, again, on that healing journey as the perspective of the gentle student. Because everything I keep seeing here, there's something really important that's occurring right now for a lot of the masculine that I'm seeing on this healing journey, that is working towards feminine or approaching feminine in that modality of the patient pupil. Now, for masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation, this is how those spaces of trust are occurring, right? This isn't the masculine that's just leading forth with their own desire to feminine. This is the feminine that's almost masculine, that's almost leaving that space open between them to allow for the feminine to step forward into their confidence in being able to articulate. Because we see even now that a lot of those wounds of trust are from the feminine that is having like those blockages in relationality to moving towards the masculine, not for fear, not for lack of desire, but for anxiety as it relates to the harms that were caused in past experiences. So we see even now that there's something about the tenderness of these energetic connections that are forming at this time that are slow, they're patient, but they're also deeply restorative, because these are not moving. I need to point this out. These are not moving as like an energetic means to an end. These are energies that are wholly immersed in the experience of learning one another, right? While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, I'm just seeing that for a lot of this energy coming into divine union right now, I can just see the energy saying, like, there might be, I can see the energy contending with recognizing and being like, there's some energy that's upset with us. There's energy that's not pleased with that journey, right? There's like, this is the energy that just says that's part and parcel for moving into that space. And this is the energy that works in that space and saying, again, not for effect. This isn't energy going, yes, excellent. No, it's not like that. Like, this is energy that struggles with that, right? Experiences that pain point, because this is the energy that says it's not the intention, right? And so I keep seeing that this is the energy that's holding one another in those experiences, because this is the energy that feels the weight of another's lack of understanding. And it feels like it doesn't feel positive. It feels like an energetic, like this is the energy that like feels that weight, but feels that sense of moving forward, with that sense of compassion as they do. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is deep within divine union, this is just the courage and confidence we give ourselves as we question our own journey, right? And a lot, I just see even now, like for masculine and feminine, that feeling of questioning, right? I just see the counterparts saying to one another, if you question, it probably means you're on the right path, right? Because you don't wander carelessly when you're intentional in your path work. You try to do what is best, and you work through that, and it often feels energetically thankless, but we persevere regardless, right? You don't do it for the sake of that outside force. You do it for what's within. Continuing to get clarification between our Nine of Cups in combination with our Queen of Wands in its reversal. Yeah, you see this? We've got this is that nine. I mean, it's heavy today, like this is, and I want to stress this. If you're going through a lot of periods of self-doubt right now, I want you to remember Mars is in retrograde. So there's a lot of that added intensity here. And a lot of that, a lot of that frustration in relationality to being, I want everybody to be kind on themselves right now, right? Because if you're feeling like you're not doing like as well as you desire to be, remember that that's usually an amplification of caring a lot about what you're doing, right? When we care about something, we constantly worry about the fact that we're not doing it well, or that we could be doing it better. I don't want you to get overly hard on yourselves, especially right now for the energy that is deep within divine union, because navigating some of that frustration This isn't the energy that gets reactive to others. This is the energy that like works on navigating that. And it's heavy, it's hard. And for feminine right now, I can see that that is that state or space of, I want to say, feeling, I want to say somewhat, and I see this even now, like trying to navigate feeling energetically isolated, potentially from other feminine energy as well. Because a lot of that work, like I said, even now, like remember that you may be finding other feminines in that same space. Don't take things personally right now. Assume that maybe someone else is feeling that same way. And if they're accidentally projecting it out onto you, don't match them in that. Ask the question that may say, like, you know, is everything like, is, I can see a lot of the energy right now saying, like, you know, like how, like working through that to a certain extent, that creates that sense of inquiry that then allows for that point of healing. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union, what I'm effectively seeing here for a lot of the energy coming into divine union, this is giving me a lot of that same indication of frustration. If you're looking upon something and you're recognizing what feels like it is energetically supportive versus what you're moving away from, right? And that's what I meant about the fact that when we're navigating in this way, this is the energy that, again, it's the energy that can only be apologetic to a point, because when we're moving in pathwork of integrity, it's not meant to cause distress or upset to another, right? So I see even now that there's a lot of that energy almost coming into that modality of apology if there were moments here of experiencing turbulence that is being recognized and identified as they continue that journey. Because I keep hearing the energy coming deeper into divine union saying, it wasn't my intention, right? So even here we see that there's a lot of that force of recognizing and working through, and holding space for one another on that journey. I can see a lot of the energy saying, I get it now, right? Like, I get it. While for masculine, and because this is the energy that feels that sense of sacredness, and they're navigating that sense of sacredness with those around them. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, in separation, I just need to show you this. And remember, this is that Gemini full moon energy we're talking about that we're in the hangover with. I'm just showing you these two cards so you can see why you may be feeling like you're like a pinball right now. You're probably feeling like you're bouncing a lot back and forth between like elation and devastation if you're in separation. Why is the energy bouncing back and forth right now between elation and devastation? Because these are the energies that are opening wounds and closing wounds in the process. So if these are the energies that are recognizing and identifying the difference between trepidation, someone moving towards you with intentionality and slowness because they hold what you're creating for them sacred, and you experience something that felt more akin to hesitation in the past, someone that just didn't care, someone that was navigating with you carelessly, someone that was trying to intentionally slow something down. This is a lot of the energy in separation that is identifying the difference between someone who moves slowly because they're careful versus someone who moves slowly because they didn't want something to move forward. And that's why this could be, sometimes this is why healing often, it hurts, right? Because it's the observation of what healthy feels like that amplifies what was wrong with the experiences of the past, right? It's all of that. It's like all of that clarification that rises, right? But here we see even now, like this is the energy that's holding each other as they navigate forward in that journey. While continuing to get clarification between these cards right now, between our Queen of Wands in its reversal and our Death card in its reversal. And it's a little heavier right now. I gotta say, it's a little bit heavier right now for feminine in terms of the internal self, right? You know, like this is the feminine. I just see a lot of the feminine energy right now saying to others, like, I'm sorry if I'm not disappointing you by what you anticipate me to be, right? Like, this is a lot, I see a lot of the feminine energy, like basically saying, it's not my, like, I can't, I'm not, like, I just see this a lot. Like, do you see, we've had a lot of this coming through right now for the feminine, you know? Like, this is the feminine saying, like, recognizing the impossibility of path work that requires you to energetically please everyone, right? This is a lot of the feminine that's healing the inner child. It says again, if this is feminine that was working through that preconceived notion that it was more important to be liked than right, this is a lot of the feminine saying, let me appear wrong then. Right? This is the feminine that says, maybe in that moment that I appear wrong, I know that I'm moving towards what I know is right. Right? Because this is the feminine energy that in that modality, what they're effectively releasing is the burden of others' expectations upon them. Right? So we see even now, there's a lot of that feeling of, and I feel like this is a lot of, I gotta stress, this is a lot of stoicism that's coming through right now on the feminine journey, right? And that's not the I need to stress this because we always misinterpret stoicism. Stoicism is not teaching yourself not to feel. Stoicism is feeling, the Greeks were very feeling people. like it's feeling the magnitude of emotions and not letting them steer your own intention. Like, it's easy to disassociate, but to feel the magnitude of your emotions, but still persevere in what you know is energetically best. This is a lot of the feminine that's working through that and saying, and feeling that pang, right? Like feeling that pang, but saying, if I'm feeling that pang, it's because I care. It's because I'm working in a way that I'm being very conscientious. And sometimes that works in that space of not being able to please those around. And this isn't the feminine that says, forget it, I'm trying to please the self. This is the feminine that says, I'm trying to move in the directionality of my purpose and what I know is best, right? So that's hard, but it's also like, this is a lot of the feminine that's becoming, like, the strength of the feminine journey is surrendering. But it's not surrendering to what will be. It's surrendering to the expectations of others that they're moving away from as they continue forth on that journey. While for masculine energy, this is a lot of that same work that we're seeing right now in relationality and in context to that across all of the frequencies. But a lot of that has to do with remembering, and I got to say this right now to the masculine energies that are experiencing this, your value is not intrinsic on what you do. Your value is intrinsic in who you are, right? And so I see even now that there's a lot of that masculine that is feeling the frustration in relationality to their own, like I want to say, the feeling that their identity is so inextricably linked to like what their energetic output is. And so I see even now that this is how the masculine is also doing some inner child healing work right now, because this is the masculine energy that articulates and says to the self, I am more, I am more than what others perceive me to be in the context of what I bring forth. That my emotions, like the valuation point of the emotions, are such that the masculine energy, recognizing the emotions that feel valuable and valid, right, versus what feels like it is difficult and frustrating, this is what is allowing, to a certain extent, some of that force of energetic healing. Okay? Final, continuing to get clarification right now between our Death card in its reversal in combination with our Knight of Pentacles in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Ten of Swords in its upright. So I just want to say, a lot of this energy that we're identifying right now. This is what feels so energetically fundamental at this time, because there's a lot of force of change that we are recognizing and identifying. There's a lot of this feeling right now of moving forward, right? Like the things like that force of change, or everything that is actively changing. But we see even now that this is a lot of the energy working across the frequencies that isn't in that moment of overly internalizing that change, right? But recognizing what that change is that is allowing for that expansiveness. But it's difficult, right? Because a lot of that, like I want to say, it feels like there's a lot of those fundamental shifts that are happening here. And I got to stress, especially with this like 9 of swords, this 6 of swords in its upright, and this 10 of swords in its upright. So much of this, it's navigating frustration, but not allowing oneself to be, I want to say, it's not allowing oneself to feel overwhelmed by the frustration. It almost feels like that's a lot of that energy that becomes more focused in the process. Continuing to get clarification between our Empress card in its reversal and our 9 of swords in its upright. One card to clarify, clarification with our Page of Cups in its upright. So, you know, I gotta say, there's a lot of this work that I see that keeps being navigated right now across the frequencies in relation out. And this, do you see, like, can I just show you, this is a perfect articulation of how polarizing some of this work is right now, right? Because I just want to show you what we're seeing here in these cards. And if you want to see the full spread when we're completed with this reading, make sure that you head over to my Substack, graystrega.substack.com. You'll be able to see the full spread. We've got here this whole row. You got the Empress in its reversal. We got the 9 of swords in its upright. We've got they got the 6 of swords in its reversal, and we've got the 10 of swords. So this is a lot of heaviness. And then what do we have popping up? Page of Cups. What the heck is the Page of Cups doing there? What is the Page of Cups doing there? And this is why, because like this is a lot of that energy that's working through that modality of saying, like, you know, is when things are falling apart, things are also coming together, right? Like it's a lot of that energy that says, hey, don't put your head down, look up, keep your head up, right? Because I see even now that this is the energy that works forward in that way, right? That amplifies and articulates what feels like it is productive, what feels like it is energetically supportive. This is the energy that works in that space, that when you feel hard on yourself, it almost feels too self-indulgent to be hard on yourself, right? Like when we're moving towards the pathwork of our higher self, you know, I almost feel like the higher self sitting here and saying, hey, I know things are rough right now. Are you going to be hard on yourself about it? Or are you going to grab that flashlight? Or are you going to move in that space? Like, are you going to be a part of the energetic problem, or are you going to be in part of the energetic solution? Right? So we see even now that there's a lot of that beauty that's coming through right now. And a lot of that has to do, it's having a different impact across the frequencies. For masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation, this is the energy saying, like, to one another, you caught me at a really weird time, right? Because this is a lot of that energy that's finding themselves and healing those connections in the midst of a lot of like wacky energy, right? It almost feels, I can see like a little bit of that incongruity right now that is almost like adding a little bit of that energetic levity to them, some of those connections that are happening at this time. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, this is a lot of that work that we're seeing right now in relationality to giving each other that energetic support on the journey. Like I just keep seeing, and what's interesting about this is a lot of the masculine and feminine energy looking back on the past version of self, right? Because that sense of creating, that sense of building forth into partnership, this is the energy that articulates and amplifies and says, this is never too heavy, right? And if this is the energy that's feeling that weight of some of that energetic turbulence, this is the energy that looks towards one another and says, it's not heavy. What I have with you is the lightest thing in the world, right? Because this is that moment that speaks towards the valuation of sacredness, is the weight that is the lightest of burdens, right? Because it uplifts in the process. While for masculine and feminine deep within divine union, this is a lot of that energy that I want to say navigates, like when you're in counterpart energetic connection and you're in a healthy space, you don't feel hard upon the self about where you find yourself, right? Because this is the energy that doesn't put the self first. And I need to stress this. This doesn't mean that the energy within divine union is self-sacrificing, but this is the energy that doesn't move so much in relationality to how they feel, but what they're trying to bring forth, right? So when you're feeling energetically heavy, you say, this is not helpful to what I'm trying to bring forth. Like, it's like you just kind of, you have to, you're like, and transmute. Like, it's like, and transmute. It just doesn't feel like it serves a purpose, right? It's like, all right, continuing to get clarification between our 9 of swords in its upright in combination with our 6 of swords in its reversal. One card to clarify. Clarification coming through right now with our 4 of wands in its reversal. So a lot of these frustrate, that's the thing about this right now. And this is, I gotta stress this, we're still not fully out of the Mercury retrograde. We're still up in that shadow period. And a little bit of this, don't be surprised if there still aren't these like miscommunications. Don't be surprised right now if there's still a lot of that like that clumsiness as it relates to communication. Okay, we still got, especially with the Mars in retrograde right now. The problem is the Mars in retrograde, everybody's like deep in their feels and everybody's super sensitive right now. So if you're experiencing someone coming towards you from a place of heightened sensitivity, navigate it with a sense of compassion. Remember that we're all going through that together to a certain extent. And that's why I say even now, like, don't be reactive, be compassionate, but at the same time, like maintaining those energetic boundaries that are necessary. Because I see even now, like, there's just, when I see all of these cards like this, it feels like a lot of like energy that's like far too easy for someone to be like, and I took that personally. Be like, but why? Was it personal? Was it intentional? Or are you taking it personal? Right? Because that ability of saying, is that something to take personally right now is going to help, like, don't assume like something is meant to be taken personally, is what I'm seeing. Like, being compassionate towards that is the practical space. Continuing to get clarification, again, between our 6 of swords in its reversal in combination with our 10 of swords in its upright. And this is what I mean right now about, like, if you're feeling like you're bouncing back and forth through a lot of modalities right now, like, yeah, like that's the energy right now. Can I get one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with Knight of Swords. Don't let this Mars in retrograde get under your skin. And I know that's easier said than done. I know that's easier said than done, right? Everybody's imagine everyone around you right now has had a very swift, quick blow to their confidence, right? Just imagine. And if someone's reactive to you, be like, imagine that person just got like hit way bad in the confidence area. And when you recognize that, when you see that, don't 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 amplify another person's fear, or don't amplify another person's hurt. Like, effectively be practical and be restorative, but to a point. Like, that's what we mean. That's what we mean with compassion. It's like the compassion, but with a firm boundary. And there's a little bit, I see this even now. There's a little bit of this like parsing between, and that's what's difficult about some of this energy right now. I can see a lot of that energy being like corrective, being like, you're right. Like, I take that. That's mine to take. No, this is yours to take, right? Being able to recognize and identify what feels helpful versus what feels like unnecessary. There's a little bit of this back and forth here, which is why I just want to see this. Do you see this right now? The ability to cross the wires here and misunderstand. I want to say, be careful right now of someone that says something jokingly that you take personally, because I see even now, like, maybe someone trying to lighten the air, that it feels like something intentionally directed to you. Just be compassionate through it, right? Continuing to clarification between our Page of Cups in its upright and our Four of Wands in its reversal. One card to clarify. Clarification coming through right now with our Three of Pentacles. So again, when the way I want to describe the energy today is like the wind is like going back and forth. It feels like it's going left. It feels like it's going right. It's giving me a lot of tempest tossed kind of vibes, which is why grounding right now is really key, right? Like, don't let yourself like be blown all the way around. Just like when you're grounded, it doesn't matter which way it doesn't matter which way the wind is blowing, because you just stay very focused. You just stay very focused and intentional. So, and I see this is occurring right now, and this has to do, and it is interesting because it's bringing out different qualities and characteristics between masculine and feminine energy right now. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. I want to say right now, for the feminine energy, so much of this work that we're identifying and seeing at this time has to do with navigating others' volatility, navigating others' inconsistency. I just see this, like, a lot of this feminine energy just like going like, give me strength. Like, a lot of this feminine energy kind of having to facilitate like through like, and this is the same energy that we saw yesterday for feminine, which is like, it's like the wind that blows and then you go, are you done? It's like, it's giving a lot of that, because like when the wind blows like that, like when you have a lot of things happening at once and you just stay focused and grounded, you say, okay, that's not practical. Like, I understand where it came from, but it's not productive. Shall we continue? Like, there's a lot of this energy here of the feminine just navigating others' volatility and just finding a lot of that like strength of self in the process by appreciating their own, like, and I want to say this, the lack of reactivity, right? That does not come from disassociating. It comes from understanding. It comes from the recognition of the force behind the force. They're saying, like, that sense or that space of understanding where something comes from, right? And then helping to get to like the source of it beyond that first emotional expression, like beyond that first energetic outburst, beyond that first like articulation of frustration, like getting back, like, sometimes we have to allow that to occur in order to build into that state of getting to the energetic heart of things. While for masculine right now, a lot of this work that I'm seeing has more to do with that modality of feeling the assurance in the self, right? And building into that sense of self-assurance This is a lot of the masculine parsing through, doing that delicate work of recognizing the emotions that spring up from the ego, right? The ego that wants to protect the higher self versus the emotionality of the higher self. The emotions of the higher self are sacred. They're protective, right? The emotions of the ego, they're demanding. They want things. They want things the way that they want them. They imagine things the way that they desire to be. The ego does not imagine things. The ego opens its eyes to the possibilities of what could occur. While continuing to get clarification right now, and for a lot of this energy right now in separation, recognizing the ability and characteristics and qualities, and I want to say this even now, and for masculine and feminine, this is very important. For masculine, recognizing, I see that this is a lot of the masculine energy that is identifying the feminine that is in that moment or in that experience of being able to recognize, and again, this is why the masculine, when finding the feminine in this space, begins to heal. The feminine that does that same work with the emotions, recognizing the emotions that serve the better, the higher self, versus the emotions that rise forth when things are not the way that one desires them to be. This is the masculine that's learning those qualities and characteristics via building forth with the feminine that is articulating through their anxieties and fears instead of reacting to them, right? Not assuming that the masculine is coming towards them in the same way of the energy of the past, but allowing the opportunity of the masculine to show the feminine that they have progressed on their healing journey. While for masculine right now, for feminine, seeing the masculine that is saying, recognize and identify, see me. See the difference between a masculine that moves forward towards you carefully because I watch my steps, because I find that my steps towards you are sacred. Let me show you the difference between the masculine that holds that pathwork sacredly versus the masculine that drags their feet along the way. And that slowness is not because of the procession towards the feminine, but the dragging of the feet that indicates a lack of desire to move in an appropriate direction. Continuing to get clarification between our Four of Wands in its reversal in combination with our Knight of Swords in its reversal. May I have one card to clarify, please? Clarification coming through right now. Boom. 3. There you go. You see this? I want to just show you. You see all that? You see all this mess? You see all this mess that we had in the cards in the center of this reading? What are we coming into on? All that mess, we got 3 of Pentacles, 3 of Swords in its upright. This is how we heal. We heal. We don't ignore, right? We don't work in that space. We introspect. We hold our energetic boundaries. We articulate through them. We allow for those points of productivity. And I see even now there's a lot of the energy in healing that is art. I want to say articulating their intentionality. When we do not assume, right? When we do not assume, and when we're experiencing something from another that is problematic, and we ask the correct questions, we often receive the correct answers, right? But that's why we see even now that sense or that space of being energetically curious, working in that way. We see that this is allowing for that sense or that space of healing. And for masculine, it's requiring a lot of listening, right? This is why I just see a lot of that healed masculine that's coming towards feminine as the active pupil, because this is the masculine that says, I don't want to tell you. I don't want to just tell you about my journey. I want to hear what you've learned as well, right? I am also here to receive an understanding that you may have something that I have not experienced or recognized, right? So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that introspection here and a lot of that healing that's occurring, especially for energy right now in separation that feels like it is slow and patient, but is the patience of someone that is actively listening, right? While for a lot of this energy right now, that is coming into divine union. A lot of this work that we're seeing right now coming into divine union is facilitating and recognizing, feeling the stability of what they create because of the sanctity of what they create within. And often in that moment, even if we feel the force of others, that doesn't necessarily feel like this is like, I keep hearing the energy coming into divine union saying affect, not effect, right? This is the energy that keeps on articulating to those around them. If they're experiencing energetic turbulence, we're not doing this to elicit that energetic reaction. We're doing this to notify you because we have been energetically affected by it. Like it's already happened. This is the energy that keeps saying, this is the energy that's already saying, you don't seem to understand. We're already deep within divine union. It's already happened. Like this is the energy that keeps saying that to a certain extent because they're identifying and they're articulating and saying that is an energetic moment of celebration. It's the energy that's saying they're not asking permission to move into divine union from those around them. They're articulating their celebration for having done so, right? While for masculine and feminine energy right now, and that's why there's so much of that compassion, because I see that energy almost saying to those around them, I come, like I'm spreading good news. Like this is good news and explaining to those that it is. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is deep within divine union, this is the energy that I just hear the energy within divine union saying, make it work. Right? Like this is the energy like within like divine union that is like looking at circumstances and situations almost like a Rube Goldberg machine and being like, what? Like, and this is that, like when we're having those moments of frustration and complication and confusion, you have those moments of like looking towards counterpart and just saying like, you know, like all you can do is everything that you can do, and you make it work, right? Because that's what you do. Final card for today's spread between our Three of Pentacles in its upright and our Three of Swords in its reversal. Final card for today's spread is, we have here our Six of Pentacles in its upright. So this is, remember, today the watchword is compassion, right? And remembering, and that there's a lot of that space of compassion that we're effectively seeing in, you know, recognize and identify that everyone is doing the best that they can. What if everyone you're seeing right now is just doing the absolute best that they can, out like in difficult energetic circumstances, right? And when we're able to facilitate recognizing that, it's looking at others in that way that we're able to extend compassion, right? And not building into that. And that's why I said, even now, there could be a lot of circumstances that arise today that someone, of being the amplification of someone saying like, and I took that personally, being like, but why? Right? Like that sense or space of identifying and recognizing that, like, and if you're feeling like you're taking something personally right now, make sure that you're asking the right questions, because a lot of that work in doing so, this is how we heal, right? We damage by making assumptions, right? Taking things personally, allowing the ego to overrun our own sense of curiosity and introspection. So make sure that you're putting that forward today, because, you know, and again, because we're still in that retrograde period, be like, can you say that again? Or can you repeat that? Because often I can even see now, remembering that sometimes in another person's articulation of something that they bring forth to us, they themselves can also see and recognize something within themselves, right? Like the ability to identify that to a certain extent is often met via that sensor that I can just see a lot of energy saying, can you please repeat that? Because it's almost like that moment of someone saying, repeating that they land upon the energetic solution today via identifying and recognizing what that sense of compassion is, or how it's presenting, or where it might be lacking, right? Bottom of the deck on this reading right now is our Four of Cups in its reversal. So, you know, I just keep seeing that there's a lot of like there's a lot of this like pickiness, Like this energy right now, it's picky, right? That's the difficulty. And I want to stress this. This is sometimes an issue that we experience with Gemini and Libra energy because it has to do with all of that polarity, right? Like trying to find balance or moving back and forth between extremes. It can sometimes create a pickiness that is not practical, right? So make sure that you're not like, if you're being picky, it's okay. Like, listen, I need to stress this. It is okay to be picky if the thing that you're navigating from a point of pickiness is coming from the higher self. If it's the egoic self that's being picky, like remember like that difference of being like, can you just like apologize a little louder? You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing, like, you know, like that type of energy. Like remember, there's pickiness that like there, I can see some energy saying today, I'm picky about it because it's important, right? That is the pickiness that is the higher self, right? Like that's the nuance that is like the articulation. This is why I see so much energy right now struggling with decisions. Because if this is the energy that's being picky about it, they're going, I'm being picky because it's important, versus the pickiness of the egoic self that's like, I just want things the way they want them, and I'm not going to accept the fact that they can't be a way other than I may have desired them to be, right? Like don't block your blessings. You know, like don't block your blessings today. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you so much for being here and experiencing them. Please, if you'd like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, Strega.com. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a two-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. Also, a couple of updates before we move into personal readings today. First and foremost, thank you to everyone who attended our recent tarot class. Our next tarot class is tomorrow at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. We will be continuing our studies and journey into the tarot with a focus on the Strength card. If you would like to become a part of that class program, all you need to do is head over to my Substack, graystrega.substack.com. Your paid subscription to my Substack will grant you access and entry into our live classes each and every month. You will also gain access to the full Tarot Church Library. That is over 8 hours worth of material that you will immediately have access to. That library is always growing. Also, again, it's not necessary to catch up for each class. Don't worry if you're just joining us for the first time. I will be giving recaps on everything that we have studied thus far. But the material is there for you to receive when you're ready to receive it. You'll also have access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other students to ask any questions that you may have in relation to anything that we've learned thus far. And if you become a founding member to my Substack, not only will you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, you will also receive a complimentary one-on-one mentorship class with me, wherein I will assess where you are on your own personal tarot journey and give you the best insights in terms of how to utilize those classes to the best of your advantage going forward. One of the things I tried to do in these classes was make them absolutely accessible to the brand new novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's certainly something there for everyone, regardless of the level. We will be studying the Strength card at the next class, which will be a deep dive into the history of that card. We will be investigating the symbiology of that card, spread application. I'll also be presenting you a unique spread to focus directly on the qualities and characteristics of that card. And all of that is available to you regardless of your personal level. And if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, I would encourage you to follow me, to head over to our subscriber-only Discord channel, because there you will find a very special coupon code that will give you an additional discount to that Substack subscription. Even if you do not become a paid subscriber to my Substack, I would encourage you to follow me there to stay up to date on any new offerings, services. I post my weekly newsletter there, which will give you insight into my in-person events as well as my online live schedule. You will also be notified as to our giveaway information. And speaking of giveaways, we have announced the winner to our November giveaway. Congratulations to our winner. If you would like to find out who that winner is, all you need to do is head over to my Substack. It is listed in my newsletter. Congratulations to the individual who won. Finally, I want to let you guys know that on top of my standard life path readings, I also offer mentorship classes. These are for my clients that are seeking a more personalized educational experience with me. I take a very limited number of students for this reason. Those classes are focused on whatever area of personal growth or spiritual development you are most invested in learning more about. They can be purchased on an individual level or as a monthly class series. That is 4 45-minute readings, weekly or bi-weekly as your schedule permits. Also, for my clients that are seeking more consistent weekly tarot support, I'm very happy to offer weekly tarot insight packages. That is a package of 4 30-minute readings, again, weekly or bi-weekly as your schedule permits, so that you can stay more consistent on your personal journey. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing in these messages, and we will do this again tomorrow.